Has the bear market been confirmed for crypto stocks and Bitcoin? What do you think today? This is the bottom. What do we think here? First of all, the Nasdaq has turned green. Why did we have this sharp drop, panic drop? Look at this crazy sharp drop in crypto and in stocks, right? And in stocks. And why are we bouncing right now? This, I can summarize all of this in one word, and that's called liquidity. Liquidity. That's why they're ending QT, because there's no liquidity in the market. Let me just show you guys what has been happening. Basically, the market bounced, right? Because the Federal Reserve saw the panic, and the Federal Reserve came out and said, look, we're basically going to cut rates. They had the number two man. Well, the number one man is Jerome Powell, Federal Reserve Chairman. But who is the Vice Chairman? Who is the J.D. Vance, the Vice Chairman, the Dick Cheney of the Harris, Kamala Harris of the Federal Reserve? His name is Williams. I think it's John Williams. It's John Williams. Basically, he's the head of New York Federal Reserve, and the New York is basically the most important Federal Reserve regional branch out there because it controls all of Wall Street, controls Citibank, Wells Fargo, and all of those guys. And he basically said, yeah, I see we're going to get a rate cut. And then you had other Fed presidents come out and say, no, the Fed should hold rates steady for a time to assess the degree of restriction. This all happened on the same day, right? On the same day. And that's why the market is bouncing, but not like a 3% bounce. Fez Collins, that's another Federal Reserve governor, voter, hesitant to get too far ahead with rate cuts, right? But how did the market react? First of all, let's have a look at this. We've gone to now 70% chance of a rate cut, right? And only yesterday we were at 40% chance. And the day before that, we were at, I think it was 30% chance. We've gone from 30% chance to 70% chance in 2 days. Even though today, this morning, right? This morning, this is Friday afternoon U.S. time, or Saturday morning, right? If you're in other parts of the world. And even though the Fed has said that two Fed governors came out and said they don't want to cut, right? Because it's a voting process. They have like 12 voters, and you need to win the majority. And one guy, but the market believes him because it's John Williams from the New York Federal Reserve, the most important regional Federal Reserve out there. And he said, I think we should cut rates in December. And with that, we saw the markets bounce. So that should give you a clue and proof, corroboration of what Pablo has been saying all along. For the last 2 weeks, I've been saying this: if you don't understand why crypto is crashing, there's only one word you should look out for, and that is liquidity. Liquidity. If you're looking for a 2-word explanation, that's liquidity crisis. Liquidity crisis. But of course, you guys are watching a video of mine, so you want a proper explanation. I've explained this over the last 2 weeks. I'll tell you now why it is crashing and where Bitcoin, crypto, and SP 500, Nasdaq are going from here. And in these conditions, what are altcoins doing? And I'll show you guys which futures trades or spot trades I'm actually doing, right? First, let's have a look at what altcoins are doing. Would you believe it or not, this is Bitcoin dominance, and Bitcoin dominance has actually been falling during all this time. And, you could say that it's falling because some of the money has gone into not altcoins, but USDT and USDC, those stable coins. But either way, when you look at it, this is Bitcoin dominance falling, right? I don't know how you slice it or dice it, how you justify this. It's basically, people said this was Bitcoin season, right? And now we've gone altcoin season, bear flag or a dead cat bounce, and boom. During all of this, when Bitcoin was collapsing, this is a weekly chart, by the way. In the last 2 weeks, Bitcoin collapsed from like 98K to 80K, and Bitcoin dominance has done this. Bitcoin's losing dominance even in this situation. Can you imagine if Bitcoin actually bounces from here, it goes to like 100K, 99K, 105K, what would altcoins do, right? I'm expecting Bitcoin dominance to drop to 54.5K and altcoins to have a pretty decent run. You can call it a bounce or altcoin season when we get there. Then we bounce and we can go even lower. Like next support is probably 47% after that. So what about the large altcoins that's leading this move right now? Let's have a look at ETH. So coming into this, I was talking about my ETH trade, right? And I have done a futures trade on ETH. Before I talk about that, first let's answer the question of which crypto exchange does Pablo He-Man use? Pablo uses exchange that's non-KYC. That means you don't need to show any ID. That means you don't need to, even the exchange can't see who you are. So that means the IRS can't see you. The tax office can't see you. FBI, CIA, nobody can see you. Total privacy. That's why I made this deal with them, right? Private exchange. The link is only exclusive on the Pablo He-Man link, right? For first deposits and first traders and people who are already members, all these great deals. For example, first time deposit, $100, get $20. Deposit $500, get $100. Deposit $1,000, get $200. 20% on your first deposit, right? And open your first trade and get anywhere between $10 to $500 in futures bonus, right? Just by opening your first trade. So limited time only, folks. This deal just started today, but it'll finish on December the 5th. Limited time, December the 5th. All right. For older members, there's a bunch of other prizes as well. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, then the link is in the description below. The link is in the description below. But if you're watching this on any other platform, such as this one, that's okay. Just click on my profile page, and there is my link tree or Stan link. We click on that, and it's the first deal that pops up because this is a great deal. Okay, folks, let's get back to the markets. But remember, this great deal is only available on the Pablo He-Man link. Only on the Pablo He-Man link. So we were talking about Bitcoin dominance dropping. What's something else that shows alts could be outperforming here? Now, here's another one. I've spoken about this a lot. This is others dominance. What's others? It's basically total crypto market cap excluding the top 10. So that means doesn't include Bitcoin, doesn't include Ethereum, doesn't include XRP, doesn't include BNB or Solana or Cardano, those guys. So basically it's the mid caps, pretty much the mid caps and some small caps. And we've had the massive crash on October 10th. Thank you, CZ. Thank you, Binance, for causing this crash. And then we've had the bull flag sideways. Boom, we've broken out. And this is what we would call probably a bull pennant, a bull wedge, right? And basically a bull triangle, right? We're trying to break this area, and it's been tested so many times, right? And today, because the crash of Bitcoin down to like 80K, we're threatened to break down here. But what if it can close back up above this area, and then boom, up we go potentially. And if that happens, then that means altcoins, mid caps, are going to outperform Bitcoin, which it kind of has already, right? That would signal Bitcoin season for me. Now, what is the cause of all this? What is the cause of everything that's happening other than bankers going crazy? Okay, first of all, because of the two words that I keep on emphasizing, all these videos that I've made is liquidity crisis, liquidity and liquidity crisis, simply because we have seen that we're now in the period where QT has ended. When QT ends, then it's basically the Fed is forced to end QT, quantitative tightening, because there's no money out there in the banking system anymore, right? I showed folks this chart. This is when QT last ended, and it only happened once in Bitcoin's lifetime, which was 2019. And when it ended, right, QT ended. See, this red zone was QT, and then basically Bitcoin started dumping, started going down 50% by here. This was a COVID dump, so we don't include that, but it still went down 50%. Even these bounces didn't quite get it back to, barely got it back to where Bitcoin was when QT ended, and then QE started, quantitative easing, or the printer, and Bitcoin took off. I've spoken about this so many times. So what is causing Bitcoin and the stock market to dump? If it was just Bitcoin that was dumping, then we could say, is it due to a very Bitcoin specific reason? There are Bitcoin specific reasons, right? Such as MicroStrategy been delisted. It couldn't get into the SP 500. Now it could get kicked out of other indexes. The other major index he's talking about is the MSCI, right? MSCI, major provider, global equity indexes, da. So basically, MSCI is something that fund managers, hedge funds follow, and sometimes they will replicate the MSCI America Index. If they want to just basically follow American stocks, they could invest in like an MSCI American ETF. And in that ETF, it'll include like a couple of hundred stocks. One of them would be MicroStrategy. But because it's getting kicked out of MicroStrategy, out of MSCI, then basically there's no automatic money, hedge fund money flowing into MicroStrategy. If MicroStrategy doesn't have that kind of money coming in, then it buys less Bitcoin, right? So these are negative news that's specific to Bitcoin. But it's not just about Bitcoin. There are reasons why the market is dumping. Both Bitcoin and even stocks are dumping. And the reason is because of the liquidity crisis. We've spoken about this many times. The Fed used to have to reverse repos, which is when the banks borrow money to have extra money, so they give it to the Fed and they earn an interest rate on that. I'm talking about this. I know people in my Discord have heard this before, but some people just don't pay attention. And some people who have been watching my videos, they just don't pay attention until the market crashes. Then they are like, why is this happening, Pablo? Why is this happening? And I'm telling you guys why this is happening. So they used to do this. This is the green part, and now we've run out. Now we've gone to the red part now. The red part is here, as we can see, right? Is here. We're starting to get these red bars. That means now the banks are borrowing money. Rather than they have extra cash. They give it to the Fed and they earn yield on that. Now they're actually borrowing money. This used to happen. This was back in late 2019. We can see 2020 here. And then we had the COVID crash, right? So this was last time when it got really bad, and it's starting to get really bad again. We can all see that, right? So I've shown like 4 charts last time. Oh, by the way, this is a close up, right? The green part has gone to 0, which means the extra cash that banks have, and banks are now borrowing money from the Fed or from each other. That's why going from reverse repos, the green, to standing repos, which is the red. I've explained this like in details, right? There's another way of looking at it. The purple area, the reverse repos, they've gone to 0, and then the minimum, this part, these greenish part, that's the minimum reserves the banks have, and they're about to go down here below 2.8. When you hit 2.8, that's when see here, this is on TradingView. I've graphed it, right? When you go below 2.8 here, that's when everything breaks. It's just a number that we figure out that whenever the market tests this area, see this? When we test this area, the banking system tends to crack. So basically, that's what we had. And now basically, liquidity needs to come into the banks. And what we don't need is Federal Reserve chairmans like these people, saying, we can't cut rates, whatever, right? So that's the banking liquidity crisis, and that's why the SP 500 and Nasdaq are dropping as just as much as Bitcoin itself. Both are panicking, but Bitcoin itself, there are specific reasons, because Bitcoin, as we know, is so sensitive to liquidity, right? When there is money printing, Bitcoin takes off, morning the stock market. When the liquidity stops, when there's not enough liquidity in the markets, when banks have to physically borrow money from each other, that's when Bitcoin crashes. And so therefore the money, the smart money on Wall Street, well, the dumb money, whatever you want to call them, rotates out of the Bitcoin spot ETFs, the Wall Street ETFs, right? The green is when they go into the ETFs, inflows, and the red is when they come out of ETFs, the outflows. And we can see that yellow is Bitcoin price. This was back in 2024 when we started having these big red lines, withdrawals, right? Bigger than the greens. So then Bitcoin topped at 74K and went down to 49K here. This was the Japanese yen, caused reverse carry trade crash, and boom, we bottomed, and then up we go. And now more greens coming, which means more money invested in Bitcoin, more money invested in Bitcoin. But this is the Trump election. And then in January, we started seeing large outflows, and Bitcoin tops. And then boom, big crash, and then big crash. And this was the April 7th bottom with Trump's policies on trade. And then boom, up we go. Bitcoin goes up because there's lots of money flowing into the Bitcoin ETFs, and then they sell here, right? And that's Bitcoin tops as 122, 123, 126K. And then boom, here we are right now, right? Here we are right now. And we've basically recently, last 2 weeks, we've had these major withdrawals, meaning money flowing out of the Bitcoin ETFs. And what we can notice is that this withdrawal is the second largest in history, other than this one, right? This was the third largest. So basically, this is March 2025, earlier this year, when the whole Trump tariff thing happened. And this is basically as bad as it gets. It's whole tariff panic. And we're kind of near there. So I can't guarantee this is the capitulation bottom, but I think it seems like we're kind of close at 80K, right? Here's another way of looking at if we've made a capitulation bottom or not, right? And we can see that basically this is on Binance. Those people who like to manipulate prices. The black is Bitcoin price. And these red zones are deleveraging. Whenever deleveraging happens, how do you know when deleveraging, when people use leverage, when they get deleveraged, when they get flushed out, how do you know when that happens? Well, look at this blue line. It's called open interest. When open interest is high, that means a lot of people are trading futures, going long, right? Boom, it crashes. That means a lot of folks got flushed during this down period. Right, we have these red deleveraging signals. Then leverage comes up again. Lots of people going long. Boom, right? We go down again. We go flat. Deleveraging. Boom, right? We go up. Lots of folks going long. Boom, right? Open interest, or a number of futures contracts. Open interest literally means how many futures contracts are open. Goes down, crashes. Basically deleveraging. Boom, we go up. Lots of futures longs. You could say shorts, but I doubt it, because shorts would not survive in a price move like this. It's mostly longs. And then boom, we go down like this, and open interest, or number of futures contracts crashes. Same story here again. And we notice that every time this happens, we bottom, go for a run. We bottom, go for a big run. We bottom, go for a big run. We bottom, go for a big run. And now we've also bottomed, but when is the exact bottom? Well, this thing at least tells us from a timing perspective. See how this took like 2.5, 3 months? This took 3 months. This took like 2.5 months. This took 2 months, right? Right now, we're probably only 1 month and 1 week, or 5 weeks into it. We probably need another 3 weeks or so. So probably at the earliest is early November, or at the latest is late November. As I keep saying, we should get a bottom in Bitcoin and a bounce up, provided the Fed comes in with liquidity. They need to cut rates. And be willing to do some form of QE, quantitative easing, or the printer, some form of it. Now, once again, here's a quick update of how to play ETH. And here we have a double bottom on SBIT, right? That's the one of the main Ethereum digital treasury companies, kind of like MicroStrategy that accumulates ETH. And I've been saying in this low $9 area, we could get an entry. It looks like we're putting in a bottoming tail here, right? Bitminer, probably the same thing, right? At low $9, double bottom. And imagine if we get a big bounce from here. For ETH itself, my futures entry is around low 2700s. As I said in the last video, I'm sticking with that. Okay, I'll catch you guys next episode.